What's up, hockey fans, and welcome to episode number 70 of Marty's Illegal Stick Hockey Podcast, recording here on March 29th, 2022. I'm Scott Kinville, and if you are watching on the YouTube channel, you will see that we are rather short-handed tonight. It's just me, of course, with our guests that we have coming in too. But in case you're wondering where my normal crew is, so Jeremy, the professor Roberts, has something going on with his son's hockey tonight. So as always, family always comes first, and good luck, kiddo. I hope everything works out for you tonight with your tryouts, and I know he'll do fine. The Macho Dom Real, he is working. He's still out there delivering mail. The poor guy, I swear he works like 12, 13 hours a week. And he's going to try to get in here a little bit later on. He's going to see if he can finish his route up. But hey, man, he's keeping the wheels of America going around. So good on him. And of course, the producer, Dave the Save Warner. You'll notice that I'm back home, right? I'm not in his studio. Well, Dave is feeling a little bit under the weather. And honestly, with all the health scares and all the problems that Dave has had as of late, it's much better for him to be home, resting and relaxing so that, well, Dave the Save, we could be Save the Dave by relaxing and taking it easy and getting better. So get better soon, pal. All right. So anyways, we have got a very interesting guest for you tonight. This guy, I tell you, this is an amazingly busy guy. I've been looking over his biography and everything he's into, and it's just incredible. But most of you watching this show will know this man as the voice of Utica Pioneers Hockey. He is often imitated, but never imitable. He's the one. He's the only. Mr. Ray Biggs. What's going on, buddy?
Not a whole lot. Just chilling out after work here on a Tuesday night. At least I think it's Tuesday. This time of year, you never can be sure.
No, not at all. Everything's flown into one. But hey, at least there's still a little bit of sunlight out. You know, it's 7:30, and it's getting better. We're getting there.
Yeah, and in all honesty, like week after the national champion crown, this is typically the week you discover what it is. What time get it? Tends to stay a bit later.
Yeah, we're having a little technical difficulties there with the connection. But what he was talking about is he just got back from covering the Division III Frozen Four up in Lake Placid, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But the connection's fading. There we go. He's back. All right. So anyways, like I said, he's been the voice of Pioneers hockey for a very long time now. I believe since 2011, I want to say. So Ray, how did you get started in the announcing biz? We're cutting in and out here. Let's see. Maybe try to disconnect and reconnect. There we go. All right. So we're taking care of that. I might as well fill you in on what's going on here. So anyways, like I said, Ray is here. We're going to be talking some Utica Pioneers hockey. We're going to be talking Division III Frozen Four hockey, everything that's gone on in the Division III college hockey world, because let me tell you something, this guy has got his finger on the pulse of Division III college hockey. There's no doubt about it. And I tell you, if you watch Pioneers hockey on the streams on their website or on the Empire 8 app, you know how good this guy is, because I mean, he is just an amazingly fun guy to listen to announce a game. And and not for nothing, here in Utica, we are very lucky to have fantastic hockey broadcasters right now. We really are. I mean, we always have had, but especially right now, we got a trifecta going on of great hockey announcers, right? We got Ray Biggs. We've got Jason Shia, the voice of the Comets for TV, and on K-Rock, you got Michael Lear. So, I mean, those three guys alone right there, you know, you listen to them announce games, and they just bring so much life to them. It's incredible. And speaking of which, he's back to life. There he is.
Yeah, I had to get up from the comfy spot, but we'll make this work.
I'm sorry. Hey, live broadcasting, you gotta love it, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've seen more than my fair share of technical difficulties in my life, namely ports not being properly opened and routers and firewalls and things. I've seen it all at this point. And honestly, as I was kind of joking around with you earlier before the connection kind of went off a cliff, I was kind of doing the whole a-hole early in COVID on the Zoom call thing, and was trying to do this from under the nice warm covers on my bed, but alas, I had to move.
Well, I'll tell you what, next time I see you, I owe you lunch. How's that sound?
I mean, I'll take it, but also that probably isn't necessary. That might be too much.
So Ray, tell us, how did you get started in the announcing biz?
Well, it goes back to 2011, and as I like to tell people, it was a whole bunch of dumb luck. I walked into the radio station office at UC knowing there was an opportunity to call games. I'd always kind of had, an idea that I might want to give it a try. And little did I know, by the time I had walked out of that radio station door that day, the advisor, Doug Croft, who I'm still very close with to this day, he's been my mentor this whole time. He's still in charge there. Little did I know he was ready to offer me a job before I even left the building that day. So, I like to say it's a whole lot of dumb luck, and started calling hockey games that fall, and I've never left.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And by the way, we got a comment here. Youngblood Gaming 94 says Ray Biggs is the man. So I think he's absolutely right. So during your career, tell us about some of your most memorable calls.
Well, I think for sure you've got to go back to 2013, the national quarterfinal against Bowdoin, and what an unbelievable swing of events that was. Down by a couple of goals, Jordan Hobica gets it going finally, and from there it just kind of snowballed and escalated. I was hoping for a repeat of such events a couple of weekends ago. Unfortunately, wasn't quite in the cards, but that night will be one I always remember. But before that, maybe even more memorable than that, was the game that more in all likelihood really cemented our at-large case for that tournament. You got to go back. It was a Friday-Sunday series that Utica hosted against Hobart. And there was some silly thing as to why they couldn't play a game on Saturday. I believe like the Harlem Globetrotters or something was the reason that they couldn't play that Saturday. So Friday happens. Hobart wins in an overtime. And a forward named Mac Olson, I'll never forget it, does a kayak celly out to center ice. The fans are mad. The players are mad. The coaches are mad. Just about everybody's mad. And so, of course, that ties up the season series 1-1. And Hobart was right neck and neck with Utica coming down the stretch that year for that final Pool C bid. And so I still remember this, and it was incredible. I show up Super Bowl Sunday that year, and I'm getting ready to walk in, and of course I go through the locker room area, and I just see this big handwritten sign that just says, "Who's gonna row the boat today?" in reference to what had happened that Friday.
Right.
So of course the game happens. Nick Tarian and Nick Broadwater from Hobart go out and have probably the best goaltending duel I've ever seen. And then Louis Edgicati scores the game-winning goal with 5 minutes to go in the game.
Wow.
In what has to be the single biggest moment in regular season history, probably, for the program at the time. I mean, you could make the argument maybe it's since been surpassed by some of the big moments from the last couple of years, but that was really, I think, a coming-of-age moment for the program. That's one I'll never forget. All the teddy bear tosses are unique in their own way.
Sure.
And then there's also things like, getting the win over the U.S. Under-18 team at our place in 2013, and what was my final day of college. I'll never forget, seeing the team we had that time play arguably its best game of the year against the team that had Jack Eichel on it, Alex Tuck, Dylan Larkin, Sonny Milano. I mean, a boatload of legit current NHL stars.
Oh, yeah. We're not talking just players. We're talking superstars.
Yeah, exactly. And, even a couple of years later, I didn't get to make the trip out to Michigan, but, you go out to their place and you go in and you beat a team that's got Jack Hughes on it.
Right.
Our record against those guys has been pretty good, all things considered. Considering a lot of D1s have problems with them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And, really, what Coach Heenan has done with this program is just beyond amazing. I mean, there's just no getting around that. Let's talk about this year's team for a little bit. They finished with a record of 25-3-1. Final ranking in the USCHO poll has them at number 4. Yeah, of course, it was a disappointing end of the season. Losing at home 2-0 against New England, University of New England. I'm sorry, the Nor'easters. Let me ask you a question about that. Do you think that extra week off hurt them? Nope. I think we froze up again here. Yeah, I think we got a little bit of freeze up here again. That's all. So I'm sure Ray's going to take care of that for and be back in just a second here. Let's see. Why don't we do this while we're getting those technical difficulties straightened out? I normally don't do like a commercial break this soon, but you know what? I'm going to do a commercial break this soon. Since Dave the Save isn't here, you're not going to get those professional quality commercials that you're used to seeing with him. So instead, you're going to get my version of it. Yes, scary, I know. So anyways, first of all, and you know what? These are from the guys from the Balls Army, our friends from the Balls Army, man. They'll be out in full force Friday night, I'm sure, at the Adirondack Bank Center. Anyways, first of all, here is Priceless Home Inspections. Josh Amodio, man, you want your home inspected? He is the guy to talk to. You can call him at area code 315-525-8725. And then, of course, for all your DJ needs, you can get a hold of Scott Schuster. That's an Epic DJ Service. His number is 315-219-3568. So get a hold of those guys, and they will take care of you. All right, and we got Ray back. All right, there we go. So we were talking about the end of this season for the Utica men's team. Hey, man, like I said, it's live, man. You gotta love it. But anyways, going into that game, they had that extra week off. I've never been a big fan of having a lot of time off between games. I think it really, and listen, I'm not saying that as an excuse. There is, I'm sure nobody on the team's making any excuses whatsoever, but it sometimes hurts when you don't get to have that game time for a couple weeks. Do you think there's something to that?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And in the post-game presser, Gary kind of alluded to just as much, I think. The guys, after they get the bye, he said that they had 2 basically horrendous weeks of practice. He wasn't real thrilled with either week heading into that game. And, well, the University of New England, they were tested. They were tested big time against Plymouth State. They got pushed around early, had to respond, win that game in double overtime. And you could argue that that sense of being battle-tested while Utica had the week off, it wasn't definitive to their chances, but it definitely helped.
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely.
Especially when you've got a hockey club coming in with 9 seniors, 3 graduate students, just as seasoned as just about anybody in the country. And on top of it, a head coach with a good game plan. And Kevin Swallow had a legitimately good game plan coming into a tough building, tough place to play. And even after the game, he told me that his guys seem to be a little bit more comfortable playing on the road because when they're playing in front of their building, packed house, 1,000 people in the stands, which is pretty solid for Division III, all things considered.
Sure.
He felt like they were pressing a little bit too hard. They were gripping the top hand on the stick a little bit too much. Mm-hmm. And It was showing in their performance against Plymouth State. They go on the road; it's a completely different dynamic for them. And at the end of the day, they showed up and executed. Utica didn't, and that's why they went to Lake Placid.
Sure. And, New England goaltender Billy Gerard had a great game, too. And when you run into a hot goaltender on top of it, it's just kind of one of those perfect storm kind of deals. We do have a couple of comments.
He picked a heck of a time to have his best game of the season.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
That was only his second shutout of the year, if you can believe that.
Really? Because I'll tell you, the way he played, he looked like, one of the top goaltenders in Division III that game,
Yeah, and then he goes into the semis against Geneseo and ends up getting ripped apart pretty good.
Yeah.
So, again, anything can happen on the day. He was certainly the proof case on that one. And we just happened to catch him on a high note.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that happens. That's hockey. That's hockey. It's the way it goes sometimes. But here, I got a couple of comments here I want to read off to you. First of all, John Riley says he's very impressed with how Ray prepares for his broadcast, and so am I. Great. That's a great point. Thank you, Ray. Then we got a couple of questions. They kind of dovetail together, so I'm going to kind of link them. Jordy Fighter wants to know, or says it's going to be interesting to see if the seniors in Utica use their extra COVID year or not. And then Josh Briggs wants to know how many seniors are we losing Bigsy. So let's kind of dovetail that together, because between the graduate students and the seniors, I believe there's 10, if I'm not mistaken. And
I can give you a pretty good idea. I can give you a pretty good idea of what's going to happen here. At least the two guys I will tell you that have confirmed directly to me or through a teammate that they are returning.
Oh, cool.
As I understand it, Kavanaugh will be returning, as will Justin Allen.
Really? Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. Because that was kind of what I was
wondering. My source is Justin Allen on both of those.
Beautiful. He was just out a few weeks ago. Super cool guy. Super cool.
Oh, absolutely. So I will tell you, those two guys right now are planning on coming back. Of course, the grad students are done.
Right.
Jamie Bucell, I don't know if you just saw.
Yep.
It was just publicized a couple hours ago that he signed with Macon and the SP. So he's going to give it a go here for the rest of the season.
Yeah, good for him.
Not sure if Brett Everson's going to find a landing spot. What?
I said good for him. I mean, that's such a fun league too, the SPHL.
Oh, 110%. I mean, it's an opportunity to go play a little bit longer at least. If you can build it into an ECHL resume, great. If you want to build things up and go to Europe, also great. If you want to just go get a job, the door's wide open for you to do that too. So
there you go.
It's also a pretty manageable league to play in while trying to finish your degree requirements. So there's that as well.
Yeah, and that's huge. That's huge right there. That absolutely. But that's fantastic news, because I'll tell you, even with that large number of seniors and graduating students, I got to tell you something. The roster is still extremely strong from juniors down. I mean, next year, obviously, John Monkovic, Buster Larson, Dante Zabata, they're all going to be seniors, of course, but they're going to lead the way. I mean, Jason Dobey had a great season this year as a sophomore on the blue line. Brian Landsberger looked like the real deal in goal as a freshman. I'll tell you, it looks real good next year.
Yeah, and as I've told a lot of people up in Lake Placid even this weekend, and take into consideration what I just told you. Think about this. Utica has 3 first-team All-Americans, and they're all coming back.
I know.
That's scary. That is real scary.
Terrifying, actually.
I mean, that said, Adrian's returning a pretty scary team in their own right.
Right. Absolutely. And I'll tell you something else, too. You don't think that after losing like that to New England, they're not going to be motivated? That's going to be on the locker room doors right there. That's going to be I'm telling you, this team is going to be – you thought they were good this year? Look out next year. No doubt about it.
110%. Of course, there's going to be some retooling, I think, with the depth. They're going to have to figure out how they're going to plug the holes in the lineup that are left by Bussell and Barrett and Cameron Bartkowski and, of course, Sean Dixon. I think those are four key guys that are no longer in the fold, no longer going to factor in. I'm also not sure that Eric Collins is going to be back. I put that one as a question mark right now. I know the guys were trying to talk him into it. I don't know if he's coming. But so there's definitely some holes that need to be plugged in this lineup, some voids that are going to have to be filled. But overall, top to bottom, I thought the depth gelled pretty well this year. I thought Remy Parker was a big addition at the break in terms of just solidifying 4 forward lines. There's a lot to be excited about.
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And I'm sure Coach Heenan will do a fantastic job of recruiting to get those holes filled too. So I don't think you need to worry about that. So you mentioned we were just talking about the Division III Frozen Four up in Lake Placid, and that's been pretty much a mainstay for what you've been doing for the past 10 years, right?
Yeah, ever since Utica went, I just really have never left. Since they went 13, I just finished up my 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 22. That's a weird way to count, but it's my 8th. And yeah, I've been really, really lucky to be along for the ride all these years, whether it be through Utica, whether it be through D3Hockey.com, whether it be through the NCAA. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm listening to you.
You are not moving.
But no, that's and you were the managing editor for D3Hockey.com for quite some time.
Right? There we go. Yeah. Anyway, for some reason, I guess that needed to get caught up.
Oh, we lost Big Z again. He'll be back in just a second. But yeah, that's obviously what we were just talking about with the Pioneers guys. This team is going to be loaded for bear next year, and I tell you, that is fantastic news, beyond fantastic, with Justin Allen and Regan Cavanaugh coming back next year, because that top 6 and the top 4 on their blue line too are going to be extremely dangerous. And I'm not kidding when I say, I mean, losing Sean Dixon's going to hurt. There's no doubt about it if he doesn't come back. But Brian Landsberger was fantastic. He really was. And oh, there he is. Louis Phillips. There he is. All right. So anyways, yeah, we were just talking about the Frozen Four, the Division III Frozen Four, and you were also I started to touch on the D3Hockey.com. You were managing editor there for a while, right?
Yes, I was. Youngest editor in the history of the D3Sports.com network, which, of course, is pretty big. D3Football.com, D3Hoops.com, D3Soccer.com used to be part of that. D3Baseball.com as well. So it's a pretty wide-reaching network of sites, and I was lucky enough to be approached by the founder of the site after the 13-14 season, and I joke that it kind of happened by accident, I guess, just like the start of my broadcasting career.
Right.
So, and this is 110% a true story. And you may have seen me post something about this not that long ago. So, during that 2014 NCAA tournament, Bowdoin came down to play Oswego in an opening round game, and there just happened to be a snowstorm after Bowdoin had gotten into town.
Yeah.
Well, Bowdoin was eating their team dinner at a restaurant called Canales in Oswego, and while they were eating, their empty bus slid down the hill in the parking lot into the front door of the restaurant. That prompted the postponement of the game. Now, the guy that was supposed to go write the story for D3Hockey.com was unable to make it. So out of nowhere, because I had actually met the guy the year earlier out in Lake Placid when Utica had gone. He gets a hold of me, and his good buddy actually lives in Whitesboro, it turns out. His good buddy from college lived in Whitesboro. So he's just like, you want to go do this? And I was like, I guess I was born ready. I got nothing else going on. So up to Oswego I went. Next thing you know, I'm going to see Geneseo and Norwich play the following week. And then I'm headed to Lewiston, Maine.
No kidding.
For that year's championship. And then from there, I got handed the keys to the site the following summer.
Wow, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah, not to mention that 2014. Wait, what?
I was wondering if that Lewiston, Maine, if that was the same arena where Muhammad Ali and Sonny Liston fought.
Yes, it is.
Really? See, there you go.
The Androscoggin Bank Coliseum.
So I'm sorry, I cut you off there with the Muhammad Ali talk, but I couldn't help it. It just stuck in my head. It was.
Oh, I mean, for sure, it's the most iconic moment to ever happen in that building. 110%. With all due respect to the St. Norbert Green Knights and their national championship that year, I don't think it holds a candle to the second Ollie Liston fight, the Phantom Punch photo that's been circulated a million times over. That said, so that 2014 Frozen Four, one of the things I'll always remember about that, and of course, that was Geneseo's first trip. Oswego made it for the most recent time that year.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had St. Norbert, and then, of course, Stevens Point, who was building towards winning a couple of championships before the decade was out, would kind of come roaring back into the picture after a long, long time where they were just kind of so-so/mediocre. And they at one time were one of the best teams in the country year in, year out, if you go back to the early 90s. So it was kind of, an interesting mix of the recent powers meeting the emerging powers that have kind of carried the game forward. But also, not only was it kind of, a crossroads moment, I think, for Division III hockey that weekend, but also featured one of the greatest press room spreads I've ever seen in my life. We're talking mountains of miniature lobster rolls.
Really?
Mountains. I ate about 20 of these things.
What a perk of the job, huh?
Oh, 110%. Lobster bisque, lobster rolls. And actually, in a uniquely Maine twist, here's a fun fact, and I'll offer this one up to anybody who's listening out there as well, because it's kind of a surprising piece of culinary trivia. The mixed Italian cold cut sandwich, as we know it today, was invented in Maine.
Really?
Yes, it was.
I did not know that. Right there in Lewiston?
I don't know if it was invented in Lewiston, but it was definitely invented in Maine.
Wow. Well, not. You know what? Now,
just like the unique Utica story, I also tell people that is hard to believe. The footy pajamas with the little flap for your rear end, those were invented in Utica too.
They were?
Really? Yes, they were.
That's like an iconic piece of American
That is the true story. Yes, it is.
I wish I still had a pair. I think I had a pair when I was a kid, but you just don't realize just how convenient those are on a cold winter night unless you've actually lived it. That's for sure.
I want to see those make a comeback. Exactly. I will sign my name to that. I want to see them make a comeback.
No doubt about it. I mean, how could they not, right? I mean, actually, I could go on for an hour about that. So let's try to avoid that one, I guess. But so tell us about this year's tournament up in Lake Placid. So when you're calling the games up in Lake Placid, are you in the same booth that Al Michaels was in?
So the spot I was in was actually basically right next to him. So there's a couple of little enclosed blue booths up top, and they were in one of them.
Okay.
I believe the one that was to our immediate left. We were in between at center ice. And, so not exactly the same spot, but most of the press box up there is still very much the original, as it was in 1980. The chairs are pretty much the same. They've got a lot of rust on them at this point. The structure is all the same. Anything above the lower bowl, save for, of course, the scoreboards, is probably original.
No kidding. No kidding. That is so cool. It's been like 20 years since I've been up there, and there's and of course I'm not telling you anything. There's just like this aura as soon as you walk into that place. You're like,
there is.
Yeah, it just takes your breath away. It really does.
And it's even stronger if you're in the building and it's silent.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. If the building is silent, you can hear the roars. It's weird. There's ghosts in that place.
Exactly. No doubt.
They're friendly ghosts, but there's ghosts.
Yeah. We hope so, right?
So what I'll do sometimes, honestly, if I'm working an event up there, the times I've gotten to, and I've been pretty lucky, I'll show up in there 3-4 hours prior to game time, grab something for lunch, and just sit there.
Oh, yeah.
Enjoy my lunch. Enjoy the company of the building. You sit there and you soak that in. There's really no atmosphere that can top it in a lot of ways.
No, there can't be.
Because it's the backdrop for literally the greatest moment of modern team sports history.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it. It's amazing. I mean, it's completely iconic. And the funniest part is, when you watch the replay of the Miracle on Ice game, I don't know if it's like to you, but to me, the arena seems so much bigger than it really is.
Yes, it does. And, some of that probably is the TV cameras of the time, which, let's face it, tended to hide anything in the far reaches. But, it definitely felt bigger at the time. And some of that is also the raw gravitas of the moment.
Sure. Absolutely.
It's set against this incredibly contentious political backdrop. Not to mention, it's an absolutely titanic venue in a tiny town.
Yeah, exactly, right? No doubt about it. So we got another question here. Josh Briggs wants to know.
I hope we're still connected here.
Oh, yeah, we are. We're good. It's those ghosts. The ghosts are coming from Lake Placid down to our internet. That's, Josh Briggs wants to know your thoughts. Seriously. Josh Briggs wants to know your thoughts on Drake Barnish.
I'm not supposed to really comment on potential for prospective student athletes as part of my job. What I can tell you is, in the event that Drake does elect to come to Utica, he is second USPHL Premier history in points.
Woof.
That's a statement of fact, and that's pretty cool.
That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. It really is. So in covering that this year's tournament, did of course, we didn't get to see it on TV. Was Adrian clearly the team to beat up there?
You're cutting it out a little bit here.
Okay. So in covering that, the Frozen Four up there this year up in Lake Placid, was Adrian College clearly the team to beat?
I absolutely believe so. I mean, their depth was just beyond manageability, I think, for any of the other three teams that were there. Geneseo definitely had the best shot, and they came out and proved that for a lot of that game on Saturday night, that if the bounces fell their way, they were going to have a chance. They had a couple of awful turnovers in that game that really took them out of it, but if you turn the puck over against the deep team, you're really in a lot of trouble, and Adrian was able to take advantage of that. That said, it kind of with Adrian's depth, it reminds me of what Utica was up against at the start of the season. And, of course, Utica, the only team to beat Adrian this year, they end up splitting. And you look back at what Adrian brought to the table that weekend, they were short a whole bunch of guys.
Sure.
I'm talking 9 or 10 guys were unable to make the trip. And Adam Krug had to dress a defenseman who didn't play the rest of the season. And he had to play.
Wow.
And those were a pair of one-goal games. And I remember getting done with that second game, and I said to myself, if that's Adrian right now,
yeah.
I am horrified to see them when they're healthy.
Right, exactly.
And sure enough, they ran over, around, and through pretty much anybody in their path the rest of the way.
Yeah. Oh, they were. I mean, listen, they were a buzzsaw. There's just no getting around that.
Huh?
Oh, they were an absolute buzzsaw. There was no getting around that.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And on top of it, this was also a group that really reaped the benefits of being able to play a lot of games last year. They played more games than anybody in the country last year, while a lot of schools didn't even bother.
Right.
Or played a very abbreviated schedule. Adrian went out and played something like 20 games, and it was basically an all-comers tour against anybody they could find. Whether that be the U.S. Under-18 team multiple times, Bowling Green. I mean, they were playing anybody and everybody that they could play.
Sure.
And so that certainly paid off, I think, for that group coming into this year, because they had all these experiences. They'd taken all these lumps as a team. And, you know, you really can build up a good base and a good core that way. In addition to just the raw talent level that they had, but it wasn't really the talent level that shone through in the end. You go into that third period, Geneseo's got themselves a chance, and they've really had to kind of go through hell and back to even be in that position, down by a goal, after, you know, they get called for a major penalty in the first 5-6 minutes of the game. 3 goals get scored off of that, a shorty and 2 power play goals. And they kind of had to regroup and battle back from that. But the third period, it wasn't even the skill level for Adrian at that point that took over. It was just the greasiness factor. They were blocking shots like crazy. They were in shooting lanes everywhere, especially when Geneseo had that string of power plays. Cameron Gray played terrific behind that group and was tracking shots through screens, probably on par with any goaltender I've seen all year in a single period. It's the depth of that team just completely took command when it mattered. And it's tough to contend with that. And of course, with Geneseo, it's coulda, shoulda, woulda. Because if they don't have those 2 dreadful turnovers where the D turns the puck over in his own zone on the half wall with a couple minutes to go in the first period, the goaltender gets caught in a 5-man scrum behind his own net. Those 2 things don't happen. It's a completely different hockey game.
Right.
But when you're chasing the game against a team that deep, it's hard to catch up.
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Not a chance.
Because it's not like you can go out there and try to match your top line with their bottom 6.
Yeah.
It almost feels like they don't even have a bottom 6.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They have a top 12. You know? Oh, boy. So, we do got one more question in here for you. It's Daniel Fontana. He wants to know, in that quarterfinal game, the Utica no-goal, did it look like it went in?
So afterwards, I did get a chance to review a little bit of video. And to be quite honest with you, there's really no conclusive video evidence that says it crossed the line. If it crossed the line, it did so in midair.
Which is so
And
tough.
that's in reference to the tape that I saw.
Yeah.
And the official was in a spectacular position to make that call. So I think it's really tough to go against him knowing what I saw.
Oh yeah, and I think
I mean, the official was in top-notch position to make the call.
yeah, he absolutely was.
At the end of the day, that kid was on fire. And if that didn't fall through, it was going to be an uphill battle.
Absolutely, unfortunately, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to overturn a call when it's really not completely obvious that the call was wrong. And that's just it's the way it is. I mean, that's and like you said, the official was in the perfect spot to make that call, and regardless, you can't just, well, I think it might have gone in. You got to prove it, and that's, if you can't prove it, sorry, it's the call on the ice stands. Unfortunately for us,
yeah, it's tough of a pill as that is to swallow.
Yeah, exactly.
No pun intended, of course, with the last name of UNE's coach.
Yeah, I just.
Figured I'd drop that one in there somewhere, and actually, I had a great chat with Kevin the following week up in Lake Placid, and I just simply told him, I just raised my glass and said, "Hey man, you got us."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But like I said, I'm sure that's going to be motivation and fuel for the boys next year. Make no mistake about that.
110%, I think. To have it right there at your doorstep and have it all fall apart with the amount of talent that's back. If this team wants to show up next year, work in a pissed off state through the entire offseason, come back square one, ready to go next year. I think maybe, as long as everything, of course, pans out, the effort pans out the way it needs to, you might be looking at a collision course next year, Utica and Adrian for the final. Who knows? But the beauty of the offseason is anybody can get better.
Man, that would be so much fun, too. Could you imagine that? Oh, man. Oh, boy. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's finish up. I want to talk about the ladies real quick. So the ladies had a great season themselves. They were 21-6-0. They're going to lose, I think it's 6 seniors this season, I believe, unless some of them come back. I don't know because I believe they get the extra COVID year as well, I think. Rebecca Brown, Georgiano Santulo, which that's gonna hurt. Well, I'll tell you what, this is another young team. They're top to bottom. They look pretty good. So I think they can make some noise next year as well.
Yeah, they certainly can, and they weren't all that far from making a lot of noise this year. No. Just caught the wrong end of it in the conference playoffs against Manhattanville. That was what it was, unfortunately. They get through that game. They got as good a chance as anybody to go out and try to beat Nazareth.
Yeah.
And, obviously losing a player like Becky Brown really hurts.
Yeah.
I think she brought something to the table that's not easily replaceable. Just, you don't see that kind of length, that strength, that skill level packaged together like that very often in Division III women's hockey. She was, a one-of-a-kind player in that regard. There's not a ton of pure power forwards that can play to that kind of level. And if there's a player that's going to have to step up and kind of fill that gap, it's going to have to be somebody like a Carly Stefanini, I think, for next season. But so she's part of a really, really good group that's coming back. I believe you will see Georgie Santulo return, if I'm not mistaken.
Good.
And of course, she had an unbelievable year, was All-American.
Sure did.
But just a loaded group up and down the lineup, and would be remiss, of course, if I didn't mention the wonderful work of Angela Hawthorne and just truly terrific A1 starting goaltender for Utica. I mean, she's one of those kids, works till the rink lights go off. Probably the most impressive in that regard in terms of her work ethic and what she'll be willing to bring to the table night in, night out. And that drives the whole team to be better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, it sets the example. That's the the sign of true leadership. And I think she's only a sophomore, right?
Yup.
So
And we'll have up to 3 more years
yeah,
if she wants to go down that road. So it's an exciting time for sure, especially when you know you're going to have a chance to win every night with her between the pipes. And on top of it too, it's really nice and refreshing in our league as well. Not having the buzzsaw in the room anymore, not having Elmira in the room.
right.
I think it's raised the level of everyone else. Now that they know, okay, we can come into the season and really fight for a championship. I think it's going to make the rest of the league better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
because a lot of them are still playing Elmira out of conference.
Right. Right. No, I think there's a lot of truth to that. Absolutely. Absolutely. But seriously, I mean, it's looking bright, man. It really is. And yeah, that Manhattanville game was a heartbreaker. It really was, being up and then losing in overtime like that. But again, just like on the men's side, there's your motivation right there next year. There's your comeback. They say, okay, we remember what happened, and we're going to overcome that, and we're going to go even further this year. And I think Coach Clausen and the staff will get them playing that way. I really do.
Yeah, iron sharpens iron. You have a tough moment like that, and it will ring in your head for months. It's a matter of what you do with that energy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, Ray, this has been so much fun. And just so our listeners know, obviously, if you don't know, this man does the play-by-play for Utica City FC as well. I swear, this guy does never, ever take a day off. Ever. So
I think I got a few coming up, and I'm pretty grateful for that.
Hey, let me ask you a question.
October to March, I don't have a social life. Doesn't exist.
No, not at all. Let me ask you a question, though. How different is it to call a Utica City FC game compared to a hockey game?
In all honesty, really not that different.
Yeah.
Because it's so much easier to come into this as a hockey guy versus an outdoor soccer aficionado. If you're coming in at this from the outdoor soccer perspective, it is way harder to adapt and get comfortable.
Sure.
But if you've got the cadence and flow of a hockey game, then you've got something you can really build off of.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, and it helps that it's basically the same, right? It's almost like, well, it's obviously it's like box lacrosse. I've been to those, and I'll tell you, I mean, growing up, I wasn't a big, huge soccer fan, but I love that soccer because it's so fast, it's so exciting, and the crowd is so into it. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Backflips off the boards. I'm like, what's going on here?
And the thing is, and I've heard executives and owners in the league talk about this, you are the exact person they're trying to reach with their product. You are the exact person. They want people who don't like soccer to show up and learn that they like soccer.
Yeah, absolutely.
They just don't realize it yet.
Absolutely.
And I was that way. I mean, I wasn't a huge soccer guy before they showed up.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden, the following summer, I'm sitting there watching the Red Bulls on television.
Yeah, exactly, right?
I mean, it's just amazing what that product has done to my perception of soccer and how much I enjoy it. And really, with indoor soccer, I think we've got a special product here. We've got something that, if it gets into the right money nationwide, if it can get into the right hands for television eventually, it's got a chance to take off. It's going to be the long game. The owners know that. League management knows that. They've got a good group there in charge now in terms of starting to get those pieces in place. I thought getting JP Del Camera involved on the broadcast side was a huge deal.
Yeah.
But I know, with it still being kind of a COVID year and stuff, I know there were some lumps that had to be taken this year. I know there's things that they want to refine in their operation, and they're still working on that. I mean, unfortunately, Rome wasn't built in a day, but I really like the direction the league is headed in the next 4 or 5 years, and I think fans are going to like it too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, for for me, like my whole thing with soccer was, well, I don't like to watch 1-0 games or 0, but there is no slowing down in that game. And the Utica City FC plays. It is just constant action back and forth. You know, the soccer ball caroming off the boards. It's great. I always kind of thought of it as like soccer with a pinball. You know, it's super cool. So,
Oh, exactly.
you know, so it.
And by the way, if anybody needs to be caught up on this as well, just for the record, as of last weekend, Major Arena Soccer League has made a full broadcast move to Twitch.
Oh,
so no more YouTube, at least not for the rest of this season.
Very cool. That is awesome. That is
and
awesome.
It's kind of a deal as well where Twitch has agreed to help promote the league. So that's kind of why they made that move, and I'm excited to see where the results go.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, you know, best of luck, future success for Utica City FC, because, man, I'll tell you, if you haven't been to one of those games, get to one, because it is just a fantastic time. It doesn't matter if you're a soccer fan or not. It's a great time to go to. Anything else you're into that you want to talk about before you go? I mean, like I said, obviously you don't take a day off, so.
Yeah, I'm getting to that point where I'll obviously start to, and you know, at work at Utica, and I'm not there on a full-time basis. My real day job is with Madison United BOCES now in Verona, and I work with a couple of school districts. But you know, I still balance that out with a lot of work at the university as well. I haven't quite totally grasped the university part yet. I'm still working on it after 10 plus years of staying Utica College. You know, it's just like, you know, you jump to a new year and you're saying 2021 for like 3 months by accident.
Yeah, right.
So I'm still trying to work that out of the stream of consciousness right now. But yeah, so at Utica University, I get a chance to do some other stuff. I'll be doing some lacrosse here.
Nice.
The weeknights are a little tough to make, unfortunately for me, but should get a weekend game soon enough. Plus, I'm the track and field and golf contact, so I've got some stuff to keep me busy. And other than that, I'll be sitting around at home watching Formula One, IndyCar, IMSA, whatever motorsport I can get my hands on.
There you go. That's awesome. Got a favorite driver?
Pato Award.
Gotcha. That is awesome. Well, Ray, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time to come on to talk to us. This has been so much fun, man. We really appreciate it. And
yeah, and anytime, please.
Yeah,
let me know.
Absolutely. You are welcome back to the show anytime you want, my friend. Absolutely.
Sounds good.
All righty. Well, thanks a million. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All righty. Have a good night, my friend. Thank you.
Yep, you as well.
All right. Take care. That was Ray Biggs, the voice of Utica Pioneers Hockey. Man, that was so cool. What a cool dude. I tell you, he really is. Just an awesome all-around guy. Well, folks, it looks like Jeremy and Dom are not going to make it. So you're going to get to listen to me talk about the Comets for a minute. So this is basically going to be our part 2. Normally, I have my co-host here to talk to me, but I don't. So we're going to jump into part 2. I already did the commercial break, so thank you. Thanks, thank you, Josh. Thank you and by the way, everybody, thank you for all the support. Listening to the show, checking out the website, checking out the socials for Marty's Illegal Stick. We really do appreciate it. So with that said, let's do an abbreviated part 2 here. First of all, our condolences are going out to the family of Ottawa Senators owner Eugene Melnick. Mr. Melnick passed away on Monday at the age of 62 after a brief illness. That's just awful news. And like I said, condolences to his family. We do have a couple of happy birthdays. Happy birthday to former Utica Devil Murray Brumwell. Murray turned 62 on Thursday. I always remember Murray from as when I was a kid, had that super huge mustache. It was so cool. And also another happy birthday to another former Utica Devil, Miles O'Connor. He turns 55 on Saturday. Miles was huge. I remember he was like 6'4", 6'5", and man, I remember just being a little kid thinking, man, I wouldn't want him to check me into the boards because that could possibly, well, no, it would hurt a lot. So anyways, happy birthday to those 2 former Utica Devils. We hope you guys enjoy your days. All right. Like I said, we're going to talk about the Comets for a minute here. The Utica Comets are certainly back on track after losing 3 straight. They have now won three games in a row, including Providence and at Hartford last night. Ben Brunell from the Daily Sentinel, our friend Ben Brunell, you can check him out on Twitter at BB_UR Sentinel. He tweeted out that the Comets' magic numbers as of today are as follows. For a playoff spot, it's 8. For a division title, it's 16. And for a regular season title, it's 33. We're going to kind of forego the regular season title because that's overall AHL, and the math is way too complicated to even think about that right now. But let's look at that playoff spot and let's look at that division title. So, magic numbers, in case you don't know what the magic number really means, magic number is basically the combined wins of the team that is aspiring to get a playoff spot or a division title or whatever, and the difference between the difference between them and the team that's the lowest behind them with losses, right? So it's a combined wins and losses. This is kind of a little bit more complicated this year in the AHL because we're not going by points. We're going by points percentage, which is why I'm so glad Ben put that out because it saved me from doing a lot of math and trying to figure it out in my own head. And I got to be honest with you guys, I was never good at math in school anyways, so I could have really potentially screwed that up. So anyways, the playoff spot, to clinch a playoff spot for the Comets, the magic number is 8. And the team involved with that, as of right now, is the 6th place Rochester Americans. So what it means is that, and this is points, not wins. I misspoke earlier. So the Comets need 8 points, right? Either 4 wins gets them there, or any combination of 4 wins and losses between Rochester and them gets them there. Well, guess who they're playing tomorrow night? Rochester. So they have a chance to potentially whittle that magic number down even more tomorrow night. For the division title, it's 16 points for the division title, and that is the Laval Rocket, which is, if you recall, that rivalry was a little hot earlier in the season. I think we all recall the Cole Caulfield thing earlier in the season, and then of course there was the brawl I think that was December. I was at that game. We got a video of that on our YouTube page if you want to check that out. So we haven't played Laval in a little while. Laval is a tough, scrappy team though, and they're getting some reinforcements as well, thanks to the trade deadline, of course, in the NHL. So it's going to be interesting to see. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, and I'm knocking on every piece of wood that I can find here, but the Comets should get the division title. I don't think there's really much debate about that. Now the question is the Eastern Conference. With Springfield coming on, we'll see. But I think the Comets are in the driver's seat. Let's put it that way. And more good news for the Comets. They just got AJ Greer and Kevin Ball back from the New Jersey Devils. And the Devils have signed Brian Halonen. And obviously he's been assigned to Utica on an ATO contract, amateur tryout contract. So Halonen was a college free agent. He played at Michigan Tech. He's 6 feet tall. He weighs 205 pounds. And like I said, he was at Michigan Tech. And 37 games this year. He had 21 goals and 23 assists. I was doing reading on a scouting report about him. And you know what? They say that here's a kid who can obviously put the puck in the net, but also has a little bit of edge to his game, which I'm going to tell you something. In my opinion, obviously the Comets are a wagon right now. They're loaded top to bottom. You have to be to put together the record that they put together, right? And especially the way they're playing right now. But heading into the playoffs, if there's one thing that the Comets might need, it might be a little bit more grit. So I like the idea of Halonen coming in, providing that grit for them. Obviously, AJ Greer and Kevin Ball being back really helps in that department too. But I'll tell you, speaking of grit, Luke Stevens, who came down from the Adirondack to the ECHL, he's played 2-3 games with the Comets now. He's been playing on a line with Fabian Zetterlund, and I got to tell you something. Kid looks good. He really does. He's a big guy, too, and he's not afraid to get into the corners and throw the body, which, again, it goes right back to what the Comets – and especially, I'm going to tell you something right now, going into the playoffs. Because the playoffs, as everybody knows, is a completely different animal. You got to be – right, Josh Brady, the Archibald type guy. Exactly. Darren Archie. Yes, of course, right there. Perfect. Exactly what I'm talking about. And when you're getting into the playoffs, that's what you need. You need those sandpaper guys because, especially when you get into short series in the beginning, got to have them. So I say good on the Comets. Good on the Comets. Good on the Devils for signing Halonen. Now it's just going to be interesting now that Greer and Ball are back. Who's going to get the next call-ups? Wouldn't be surprised at some point to see Fabian Zetterlund get a shot. kid certainly deserves it. He worked his butt off here in Utica, and obviously it's paying dividends. He's leading the team in scoring, he's leading the team in goals, leads the team in shots, leads the team in game-winning goals, just about everything. So I would say him and Alexander Holtz as well. However, Alexander Holtz is now injured. He left. He didn't play in the third period against Providence on Sunday. Didn't play at all Monday night against Hartford. We don't know what the extent of the injury is or where it is or anything like that. So it's kind of a wait and see kind of mode. Nolan Foote has also been out for a while now too. I think he's missed like 7 or 8 straight games. But again, it's a wait and see. We find out when they come back. But here's the thing, right? When the Comets were in their losing streak a week ago, they were pretty banged up with injuries. They had some guys down from Adirondack, and honestly, I think it was kind of a wake-up call for them, right? And it almost like reinstilled that next man up mentality. And now you're starting to see it pay off. And of course, guys are coming back. But it also put that belief back in their heads to say, hey, you know what? We can do this no matter what. And it really is. It's paying off because these past few games, they have looked fantastic. They really have. Speaking of fantastic, I'm going to tell you something. I would take my hat off, but I'm bald, and I don't want to have the reflection blind you guys on the screen. Hats off to Merrick's Mittens, right? Here's a kid who didn't play that much at all. And he's actually picked up 3 games in the past week or so. He's won 2 of them, and he lost another one in the shootout against Cleveland. And, that game against Providence, he was absolutely brilliant in that third period. I think he faced 21 shots, and he almost got the shutout, which was made that much more impressive. Overall, he faced 47 shots, made 46 saves. And again, it's a guy who hadn't been playing that much, but I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I think the toughest position in hockey is the backup goaltender. And especially when you're behind a guy who plays a lot like Akira Schmid does, and deservedly so. Akira Schmid's a great goaltender. But when you're a goalie and you're sitting there on the bench for 2, maybe 3 weeks at a clip, right? You can practice all you want, but you got to get those games in too to kind of keep your rhythm going. And that's where, concentration, and you really got to work hard at that. And obviously Merrick's Mittens has. And it's great to see him doing what he's doing, because I also want to touch on that Andrew Hammond trade where the Devils gave up Nate Schnarr to the Montreal Canadiens. It hurt to see Nate Schnarr go, because Schnarr was another one of those sandpaper guys I was talking about earlier. But I understand why New Jersey did what they did, because they needed to get another goaltender up in New Jersey. Hammond should be coming off injured reserve pretty soon. I would guess within a week or so. Devils GM Tom Fitzgerald has already come out and said, though, once he does, they plan on keeping all 3, that being John Gillies, Andrew Hammond, and of course Nico Dawes in New Jersey. So for those that were thinking that Dawes was going to come right back down to Utica, probably not going to be right away. He was made eligible for the AHL playoffs by the team. They papered him down last Monday at the trade deadline. So he will be back for the playoffs. But you know what? Merrick Mittens keeps playing the way he's playing. It gives Akira Schmid a chance to get a little bit of a break, which I think will do him a world of good to be able to get a little bit of rest going into the playoffs, because it is a long season. Let's not forget, folks, this is the first full professional season for both Nico Dawes and Akira Schmid. So they're going to be playing a lot of hockey, a lot more than they would normally be used to. And while that's fantastic for them, it's also an adjustment. So I think to get a little bit of rest is going to do them a world of good. All right. So looking ahead, obviously I said we got Rochester tomorrow. That's in Rochester, by the way, at the Blue Cross Arena. Friday night, they're home against the Syracuse Crunch. Again, the Syracuse Crunch. We played them 2 more times this year. So let's get a win against those Crunchies. And then Saturday night, they go back on the road, go down to Allentown, Pennsylvania to take on the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, which we're going to see an old friend of ours, 2 of them, actually, Cal O'Reilly and Adam Clendenning. So say hi to old Comets friends. So it'll be interesting to say the least. Anyways, I think that's all we got for tonight, folks. Again, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Again, we appreciate all the support with the website. Please check that out. We got articles up there every day talking about the Comets or whatever's going on in Mohawk Valley hockey. If you get a chance, give us a subscribe on our YouTube channel. Trying to grow that, trying to put videos out there for you guys. Of course, follow the podcast wherever you can. And again, we just appreciate all the support. Thank you to Ray Biggs, the voice of the Utica Pioneers, for coming on and talking some Division III and Utica Pioneers hockey with us. Next Tuesday night at 7:30. I already got our guests lined up. I'm so far ahead of myself, I can't believe it. I got Joe Petterino from the Making It Rain podcast. He's a friend of mine from Hockey Royalty. He will be on. He's the co-host of an Ontario Rain podcast, obviously called Making It Rain. He's going to come on and talk about the Pacific Division and the Ontario Rain. And this is going to be interesting because, you know, in our world, we don't face any Western Conference teams. So to be able to get a perspective from the other side, say, you know, I'm starting to sound like I'm Star Wars here or something, but from the other conference, it's great to get that kind of perspective. And interestingly enough, Joe's from Rochester, so he's like me, you know. At an NHL level, I follow a West Coast team, so, you know, it'll be interesting. Anyway, so that'll be next week. But again, like I said, thank you, Ray Biggs. Thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate it. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, again, YouTube, wherever you find us. And again, thank you. We will see you guys next week on Marty's Illegal Stick Hockey Podcast.